Finally, the final competition had arrived. This one was anticipated by everyone. Since they were able to make full use of their talents, the Easterners saw it as their final opportunity to restore their honor. However, some of the villages were unaware that they shared the same restrictions as the West. The Easterners entered the Colosseum in a hurry. One person, however, was running behind because she needed to use the restroom and tend to some of her more private concerns. Hana and Yuzaka exclaimed, "Crap, crap, I'm late. Need to catch up." She swiftly and carelessly took the path leading to the Colosseum at her greatest pace. Just as she hopped over a cart, she slammed into someone. She was the only one who reacted, as the other individual stood there still. She looked up, rubbing her nose in shame and indignity, and was about to yell when she realized who she had ran into and stopped. Her gut was screaming at her, telling her this tall, lean, and attractive man was an alpha. His moon crescent on his forehead, golden eyes, long white hair, and commanding aura were his most distinctive features. Her loins were beginning to get moist, and her primal nature was screaming at her to give her body to this man and mate with this alpha right now. The only difference between her reasoning side and her instincts was that the logical side was advising her to find a room. She stared at him while paralyzed and barely breathing. The man gave her a regal atmosphere while simply gazing at her for a while. Then a voice sounded. The man called Sesshomaru turned to meet a young girl dressed in a kimono and a small green imp carrying a rod with two malformed heads at its top. "Lord Sesshomaru, wait for me," he said. Sesshomaru commanded, temporarily disobeying Hana, Rin, Jaken. "Come, we need to get to the Colosseum, or we will be late to the bouts." Although it would be interesting to take the woman in front of him, he had far more essential responsibilities to complete. He could smell that she was in heat. He promptly snatched Rin up and moved forward. Jaken only succeeded in leaping onto the fur that was trailing behind him. Hana initially believed it to be a piece of his clothing, but she soon realized it was actually affixed to the man. Hana raised her hand in an attempt to obstruct Sesshomaru's departure. She was left to alone as she struggled with the wetness that had developed in her loins. When the bouts were about to begin, she was tempted to just go back and give herself some alone time to get rid of this heat. A rush of wind suddenly materialized in front of her as she began to stand up, and Kagura emerged, looking rather furious. "Keep out of the way, or become our concubine," Kagura yelled fiercely. "Listen, bitch, I've been trying to track Sesshomaru down to become his wife for a long time now. I won't let some random chick get in my way." She didn't anticipate a response and was taken aback when Hana replied positively. Hana flushed and berated her pre-programmed response. He was seriously messing with her instincts. Before she began to giggle, Kagura gave her a long look. Kagura giggled as she removed a feather from her hair bun and threw it in front of her. "Well, then, I wasn't expecting such a direct answer, but I suppose owing to what he is and what your clan is tied to, it's to be expected. Come, I'll give you a ride to the Colosseum," she said. They could both stand on the feather as it grew in size and floated in the direction of the Colosseum. As usual, the contestants rushed to the center of the arena. Some members of the Eastern group were eager to battle such formidable foes. Some had already accepted their defeat. And in the last group, some people still erroneously thought that the West had no chance. Obviously, Sasuke and Sakura, his own personal cheerleader and fangirl, were part of this gang. Soon, a lanky man with white hair and a white mustache as well as a lean man with green hair moved forward. The portly guy greeted the participants, saying, "Hello, fighters. I'm Professor Port, and this is my colleague Professor Oobleck. Today, we'll be conducting this a little differently from the last two tournaments. If you look at the screen, you'll see we have two sides, East Side and West Side. Your name should be on there, and you can check who you're fighting against right now and whoever follows. Jiving time," said the man named Oobleck. Indeed, instead of the usual round elimination, we'll be head straight for the tournament format. He talked quickly, and the last few words of the sentence were somewhat hazy. He then took another sip of his coffee. Since there are 44 fighters, that means 22 fighters on each side. Ho ho. Why, I remember in my younger days, I took my trusty accent. Port veered off topic. As my esteemed colleague was saying, we'll be hosting the east side of the tournament first. After that, the west side will go next. You may notice that for both sides, a few fighters will fight one less battle while others may have an extra one. Do not worry, we will allow to get Port back on track. Eric had to throw a brick at him. This time, instead of having 9 fights in the arena at once, we will be letting the audience choose which fight to watch on many different screens. You lot will be stepping onto a platform that will send you to another place, where you can use all your techniques without worry. It'll be a large area for you to fight, but we can only have 6 arenas for you to fight in. Mublek yelled before rushing to the side doors to open them. Yes, certainly. You've already met 2 of them before. And Port and I will also be performing commentary. Allow us to introduce to you the rest of them. 2 more persons entered the room to make introductions. Radom was the name given by the man who had spiky black hair, angular sunglasses, a white dress shirt, and black jeans. His microphone had a faint totemic form. The other was a slender female announcer decked up in stockings, a Playboy bunny costume, and a headband that gave the impression that she had horns, much like a dragon. She obviously drew a lot of attention from the fighters and the crowd due to her attire, but she gave off the impression that she enjoyed the attention. She has a unique tattoo on her left butt cheek. Hello, everyone. My name is Tatsuko, and I'm here to announce these battles on behalf of the Dragon of the 12 Zodiac referees. The first 6 matches will soon begin, and then we will call you up in the middle to be taken toward the arenas. After that is the West Side's matches, and then we'll have all the seeded matchups done right after, said Radom. In any event, please have a look at the tournament chart. Nearly terrified to glance at the tournament chart, the Easterners did so, to prevent them from fighting one another too soon. The names of the West's fighters were dispersed around the chart, which they swiftly found. Their names were highlighted for everyone to see, as if to further ridicule them. Uramchi Yusuke, Sesshomaru, Goku-san, Frankenstein, Sora, Dragneel Natsu, Konoha, Odo, and Akatsuki were stunned by the last name on the list, though Sasuke was enraged by the name. Yaoni Uchiha, Deidara shouted, "He's alive." Sasuke said, "I'll kill him," as he turned to face the Western contestants. Itachi was there, seated in the opposing team's box, enjoying a cup of green tea and some pocky. The other Easterners looked at him more intently and noted that he seemed healthier, happier, and more unwinded. He felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from him. In the meantime, in the box of the West's rivals, Yusuke questioned, "Are you sure using your true name is a good idea? You might have easily changed your appearance and given yourself a different name." Itachi answered, "Hiding now serves no purpose. It won't take long for them to find out who else is here since they already know Neji is here." The spiky-haired man with the orange gi responded, "Doesn't matter. We'll help if they try to group up on you. I'm looking forward to a good battle." Natsu, the man with the salmon-colored hair and white scarf, cried out, "I'm all revved up." The adolescent named Sora, who had spiky brown hair, stated, "This will be fun." He and Natsu bucked fists. Frankenstein, a man with long blonde hair and a butler outfit, and Sesshomaru agreed to just keep quiet. Everyone could see who will fight first once the first 6 bouts from the east side of the bracket were suddenly highlighted. Kiri Jounin vs Iwa Jounin in Arena 1. Shino vs Suzumbachi in Arena 2. Yes, Suzumbachi reasoned that it was time to prove to the tree huggers who was actually superior. Shino hardly slightly adjusted his coat. Sesshomaru vs Iwa in Arena 3. Rin exclaimed, "Lord Sesshomaru will triumph." Jaken, Inuyasha, Kikayo, Kagome, Kagura, and, surprise, Hana were seated at her box. Hana took advantage of the alone and questioned Kagura, "Were you serious about that? I thought you didn't accept polygamy." Kagura paused and thought, "Well, I wouldn't want to, but I wouldn't be able to handle him alone if he decides to mate. He is a Daiokai, like Yusuke-sama. I'm surprised he only has one human wife, although Yusuke-sama does have human blood in him. Most likely, his wife is enough for him, and I can't blame him." Also, she indicated the 2 people seated on either side of Inuyasha, Kikayo and Kagome. At this, Hana felt a little better. Strong alphas typically have several females vying for his seed. She did have one more query, though. So, who is Rin and is she really his daughter? Before telling how Sesshomaru encountered Rin, who was all by herself in a village when he decided to take her with him, Kagura shook her head. He cared for the kid as if she were his own daughter after she managed to burrow her way into his heart. Sora and Sai in Arena 4. Sora said, "Seems like I'm up first." Natsu pouted back, "Buo. I want to fight now," and then wished Sora success. Kenzo vs Suna Jounin in Arena 5. Suna Jounin vs Akatsuki in Arena 6. If this gets confused, I'll attempt to include an image of the tournament chart to help you understand how it works. As each announcer has already been assigned to a specific arena number, Radom yelled out, "All right. Will the fighters whose names have been highlighted kindly come towards the center of the arena? Please go to you designated announcer. Ryaz and Paku members will still serve as your match proctors, so heed their orders to halt." The Easterners were rather perplexed as to how they would battle until the earth beneath them suddenly lit up as the fighters appeared in front of their designated referee, an announcer. They vanished from the Coliseum before they could react. Slowly opening their eyes, they discovered that they were in separate stadiums large enough for long-distance combat. There was a lake nearby to provide water for all types of jutsu, and trees nearby to provide cover if necessary. Overall, it would be a likely setting for someone to get into a physical altercation. Kiri Jounin triumphs in Arena 1. Arena 2. Shino put up a valiant fight against Suzumbachi, having ultimately won by using his bugs to enclose his opponent in a sphere and drain Suzumbachi's chakra. He was promptly crowned the victor by Oobleck. When Oobleck described in detail what Shino had done to win, he felt justified and basked in the attention that some spectators had chosen to focus on his play. Arena 3. When Sesshomaru's adversary attempted to bury him with a number of earth jutsu, he didn't even have to move. The Iwanin screamed, "Haha, die you bastard die." Sesshomaru's whip, which appeared to be formed of light, suddenly appeared in his hand and split the entire earth in half. As the whip began to corrode his clothing and skin, the Iwanin began to scream in pain as it was wrapped around him. Kodo pronounced Sesshomaru the winner. Arena 4. Sai made an effort to observe Sora as they exchanged glances. His opponent was dressed in loose black clothing and didn't appear to be carrying any weapons. Sai charged at Sora while holding a tanto as soon as their announcer Tatsuko made the call for the fight to begin. He intended to finish this quickly in order to elevate Danzo. Unexpectedly, a weapon that he hadn't even seen Sora pull stopped his path with his sword. Sai was swiftly driven away from the conflict by Sora. Sai turned to look at Sora, who was wielding a large key and utilizing it as a blade. Kingdom Key is his signature sword, so why not use it instead of the other ones? The Keyblade. Before pulling out a scroll and his instruments, Sai had a thought. He quickly sketched a bunch of little ink animals on his scroll, called them all, and sent them all at Sora in an effort to overwhelm him. Sora only grinned before sprinting forward and swiftly dispatching each summon with a single slash. Sai had more time as a result to produce even larger ink drawings to use as weapons. Nevertheless, out of Sai's scroll, 6 enormous lions prowled and surrounded Sora. Sai continued to draw, this time with a huge ink brush. On another scroll, warning, give up immediately, or my lions will tear you apart. When the lions saw Sora wasn't going to give up, they all charged at him. Gather, Sora cried as he held up his Keyblade to the skies. His Keyblade released a magic, and a diamond-shaped spell with spheres on each end emerged. The lions were instantly drawn to the spell, where they were hanging helplessly. Thunder, Sora screamed. All the lions were instantly struck into nothingness by a lightning strike that descended from the clouds. Sai saw he needed more time and sent forth ink clones to divert Sora's attention while he completed his own drawing. A huge tiger would appear and drag his opponent into his painting as part of the sealing maneuver. By sealing one of the Westerners and bringing him to Danzo, Sai planned to aid Konoha in learning everything there was to know about the West. The ink clones approached, and Sora's Keyblade started to shine. Shadow Blade. Sora started to dart straight through the ink clones, spinning at unimaginable angles and barely even pausing after each dash. The clones vanished right away. However, Sai was able to complete his drawing. Koshi Tanden, Fuinjutsu. From the scroll sprung a huge tiger that tried to bite Sora while screaming. Sora instantly took a small step back and then spun his Keyblade in his right hand. Splicer of Time. The tiger stopped abruptly, as though time had been suspended for it. Sora sprinted for the ink tiger and slashed it repeatedly. The tiger appeared to have received no damage at all after the first 6 blows, yet Sora persisted in moving towards Sai. The tiger's time suddenly defrosted and it attempted to bite Sora. The cut Sora had given earlier suddenly materialized all at once, dispersing the tiger just as it appeared as though it might succeed. The Easterners were scared by this act. They just witnessed someone literally pause time for a single target, which was unusual for shinobi who could use time-space ninjutsu. Sai again charged in with his tanto since he was left with no other options. Sora declared as his Keyblade started to shine once more, "It's over." Ars Anima. Sai was unable to block Sora's quick 13-hit combination and began to take a beating from him. Sai was blasted off the arena while still unconscious as Sora finished the combo with a flip and slammed his Keyblade in front of him. Tatsuko instantly crowned Sora the victor while making advances toward him. Knowing that his girlfriend Kairi was also watching, he appeared to be uncomfortable. A5. Tenzo triumphs. Tenzo begins to believe that he was the one who lost as Port begins to describe the time he had to slice through a forest to locate his prey. Atrium 6. Akatsuchi triumphs. The fighters were whisked back to the arena, where they received their acclaim. On the tournament chart, The following set of matches from the west side of the board were instantly highlighted and made larger so that everyone could know who was next. Ring 1, Goku vs. A. Goku yelled, "Yeah, it's my chance to battle." At this moment, the Easterners were pleading for a triumph against the East. The Raikage, one of their most powerful fighters, was now finally standing. Assessed his opponent as he turned to face him. Although his opponent had muscles similar to his own, would he be quick enough? Ring 2, Anko against Shin. Anko appeared satisfied by this. This was an opportunity to weaken the powers of her traitor sensei. Samui vs. Kiri Jounin in Arena 3. Arena 4, Darui vs. Chijiro. Suna Jounin vs. Kiri Jounin in Arena 5. Iwa Jounin vs. Kotoheim in Arena 6. In order to prepare to be teleported to their respective arenas, the fighters moved near the center of the arena. Arena 1. Goku and exchanged glares as they positioned themselves for combat while assessing one another. They both rushed for each other as soon as Raiden, their announcer for the fight, yelled commence. After each blow, it was blocked or avoided. Goku delivered the first punch to A's face after 5 minutes of close quarters combat. Raiden screamed, and point goes to Goku. If this were that kind of match, Goku has drawn first blood. Before concluding that staying back was not an option, A quickly jumped back. He wanted to study his opponent, but couldn't take the risk anymore. He sensed that Goku had not given the fight his all. Raiden no Yoroi. A's body was instantly engulfed in lightning chakra before he sped up his approach to Goku. With the intention of punching Goku, flung a torrent of punches at him. To the surprise of the majority of the Easterners, Goku was able to block his fist without fear or evade it. Karui shouted, "No way. Nobody blocks those blows without being concerned." A, on the other hand, was having a blast. A man who was just as tough as he was confronting his onslaught. He was soon able to strike Goku in the face with a glancing blow. Goku instantly kicked in the direction of A's chest, causing him to protect by crossing his arms. Goku was able to take a little step back after this attack, giving him some breathing room. "You're pretty good," Goku remarked. He formed a Raiden clone and laughed aloud. "Ha, the same to you. Don't hold back on me," before jumping towards Goku and kicking him with an axe. Goku deflected it and hurled a punch towards A's face in a hurry, but he blocked it. They were about to engage in another vicious fight when A quickly retreated a bit, up until he noticed the Raiden clone standing directly behind him. Goku was a little perplexed, and his clone both charged with their lightning armor at full speed, modified double lariat, or Raiden. He placed 2 fingers on Goku's forehead as the two drew near quickly. He quickly vanished as the arms were ready to slam into Goku's neck and launch his head into the air. Nearly all of the Easterners exclaimed, "What? Was it the Hurricane?" O was perplexed and began scanning the area for his opponent. "Not bad," came the voice, and noticed Goku hovering in the air as she looked up. At this sight, I gasped and thought, great. The West not only demonstrates that they are better combatants, but can they also fly now? As soon as Goku saw A hadn't taken to the air, he returned to the ground in an effort to level the playing field. "Then it's time to take this to the next level," Goku replied. Kaioken. An aura of red appeared around Goku all of a sudden. The majority of Easterners believed it to be the opening of the 8th inner gate since Goku had a crimson aura that was reminiscent of a human aura. Guy felt Goku was crazy after seeing a flashback of his father doing this move. He would definitely die if he opened the 8th gate. Guy paid great attention and saw that it was different. As a result of entering the 8th gate, Goku's hair did not turn flaming red. Additionally, Goku's muscle mass appeared to somewhat grow, but he didn't appear to be taking life away. Guy came to the conclusion that this technique was distinct from it, but he was still quite intrigued by it. Rewinding to A and Goku's battle, A was perplexed by the aura and the name. A said, "Kaio what?" just before being punched and knocked flying. The Raiden clone was then destroyed by a blast of pure chakra that Goku launched from his other hand after channeling his chakra. The fact that certain warriors could launch pure chakra assaults without using any hand signs at all completely shocked the Easterners. There were few who could accomplish it, but they weren't common in the East. A cleared his throat before charging towards Goku with his lightning armor once more. He was surprised to learn that Goku had caught up to him in terms of strength and speed, though. Goku ducked an uppercut by leaning backward after A narrowly avoided a right punch before unleashing it at him. Goku decided to do a backflip instead of leaning forward after avoiding, sending a kick straight at A's chin. A narrowly avoided it before slicing Goku's neck with a backhanded blade chop. Goku deflected A's assault with his wrist. Goku attempted to punch A again with his free hand, but A's free hand deflected the blow. For a while, The action was at a standstill as each boxer tried to overwhelm the other. Goku made the decision to intensify the situation. Two Kaioken's. Was speechless by this and asked, "Times what?" before Goku stumbled backward and drew it toward him. Goku released his opponent's grasp and used his legs to catapult into the air. Felt a punch land behind him before he could gather himself. Made a powerful body first fall to the ground, causing the floor to thud and break. Stood slowly while attempting to ignore the pain. This drove me crazy. Now, his rival was more powerful and swift than he was. I tried to fight him again in close quarters but discovered that all of his blows were easily stopped and parried. Goku doubled over with a punch to the stomach before hitting him with a hammer fist. After the blow to the head, hardly seemed to be awake. Attempted to seize Goku in a desperate attempt to use his powerbomb maneuver to change the course of the battle. Goku effortlessly avoided the desperate attempt and finished it off with a jaw-dropping uppercut. Raiden yelled, and the victor of this combat is Goku. The Easterners, particularly Kumo, were stunned to see a cage truly lose when they returned to the Colosseum. If I can catch one of these combatants, I could experiment and possibly learn even more about the body. Orochimaru mused. Demon experimentation would be novel. Arena 2. Anko gave Shin a fierce fight, but she ultimately won for Konoha by using her snakes to bite him in several crucial places, including his genitalia. Winner, Arena 3 Samui. Tie. No one advances to the next round in Arena 4 for those who wanted to read a fight between them. Sorry, I already wrote a fight using them earlier. Suna Jounin triumphs in Arena 5. Kodoheim triumphs in Arena 6. Since there are only 4 seeded matchups for both East and West side, Eric said, "Alright, let's skip the break and get right to the contests." Temari vs Shikamaru in Arena 1. Shikamaru's side. Ugh, annoying, I'm against her again. Suna Jounin vs Iwa Jounin in Arena 2. Baki against Kiri Jounin in Arena 3. Arena 4, Itachi against C. Eric yelled, "Will the boxers please step up to the plates?" C didn't appear to be enjoying his battle with Itachi and appeared to be quite terrified. How much did Itachi's reputation here grow given that he was already legendary back in his home country? Temari appeared to have a strategy set for Shikamaru as the warriors prepared, which led Shikamaru to utter the word troublesome once more. Arena 1. Shikamaru used the circumstances at hand to lead Temari into a trap. She managed to avoid it, though, by leaping into the air very high, then utilizing her wind jutsu to make a straight route in his direction. She rushed him after hastily calling her weasels. The shadow that was coming directly at her was avoided by her. She directly aimed her fan at Shikamaru's head. He barely avoided it and made a modified hand sign. Temari returned for one more stroke and then abruptly stopped. When she peered down, she noticed that the summons had changed from a small shadow to a wide circle that was also being caught by her. By using his shadow neck binding technique, Shikamaru rapidly eliminated the summon. The two of them were soon the only ones left. Temari did not take anything, while Shikamaru took a knife from his back pocket. Shikamaru made a choice as he raised his hands. "I for you, referee." Temari screamed out, "I forfeit," in a hurry before Shikamaru could finish his sentence. Shikamaru Nara was declared the winner. "Incredible intelligence, that young man," said Oobleck. Shikamaru was a little taken aback by her abrupt strategies. Temari grinned when she noticed the horror on his face. "This time, I want to watch you compete against one of the Western's fighters," the Western fighter said. Shikamaru sighed, thinking that if he won his match, he would probably run into Yusuke in his subsequent match. He mumbled, "Troublesome woman," drawing a rapt glance from Temari. Iwa Jounin triumphs in Arena 2. A 3, Baki triumphs. Arena 4. C was shaken to the core. He had already battled Ryu, a rival from the West, and lost. Now, he was going up against an S-class opponent within their own system. He was confident in his own abilities, but it was simple to lose that confidence in the face of someone similar to him. C immediately utilized his genjutsu as the battle began in the hopes that it would work and buy him some time. Raijin Reikachu, his first intention was to blind Itachi in order to swiftly conclude the conflict. This strategy was immediately unsuccessful because Itachi abruptly splintered into crows the moment C threw a fist. Before C could respond, he felt a sharp chop to the neck and passed out. Itachi was readily named the winner. Sasuke murmured, "Itachi, you'll pay for your crimes and die soon." He didn't even consider the possibility of losing. Sasuke was being observed by Orochimaru, who was taken by what he saw. He was aware that Sasuke had no chance and only needed to be persuaded to defect to him. He would then be able to possess the Sharingan and realize one of his dreams, which was to be able to use every form of ninjutsu in existence. Once Sasuke was in his possession, he would easily think of smashing Konoha. The battles were promptly resumed after the audience was given a 30-minute pause to stretch. On the screen, the following combatants were displayed, commencing on the east side. Yusuke vs Kiri Jounin in Arena 1. Yusuke climbed to his feet and remarked, "All right, it's my turn now." Arena 2, Shino vs B. Tiba vs Sesshomaru in Arena 3. Tiba screamed, "All right Akamaru, let's show these guys who's the genuine alpha." Sora vs Suigetsu in Arena 4. Arena 5, Tenzo vs Natsu. Natsu exclaimed as he hurried up to the arena. Finally, I'm all revved up. Deidara vs Akatsuchi in Arena 6. The fighters entered the arena and were soon taken to the appropriate arenas where they would battle. Arena 1. The Kirinin attempted to conceal his assaults by using the hidden mist jutsu, but Yusuke destroyed the mist with his ray gun. His index finger let forth a jet of chakra and aimed straight down. Dust quickly enveloped the arena after it blew up. The Kirinin searched for him but discovered that his mist had been carried away. A punch landed in his face and knocked him out before he could react. The winner was announced to be Yusuke. Arena 2. Despite Shino's greatest efforts, B simply had too much chakra for him to be able to drain off. B's peculiar sword technique made him too quick for him as well. Before traveling to the west, B prepared new blades. When Shino realized he couldn't win, he swiftly conceded. Arena 3. Hiba prepared to fight as he stood across from Sesshomaru with his dog Akamaru. His instincts warned him to exercise caution, but his ego readily disregarded them. With Akamaru by his side and access to all of his skills, he felt like he could defeat any foe, including a demon. Hiba screamed, "Let's show this punk who's truly an alpha." However, Akamaru was extremely cautious when facing Sesshomaru because his gut told him that they were up against a true alpha. Hiba fed Akamaru a soldier pill as soon as the combat began and then dashed over to Sesshomaru. Shikyaku no Jutsu, Jiju Ninpo. Sesshomaru ducked without appearing to try as Kiba stabbed and clawed at him. Kiba became enraged by this casual demeanor before he tried another tactic on Akamaru. Gatsuga. Kiba and Akamaru transformed into razor-sharp, spinning tornadoes. Sesshomaru, however, continued to deflect all of the blows. Kiba attempted to increase the amount of attacks by using a shadow clone, but it was ineffective. Kiba misinterpreted Sesshomaru's dodging as an inability to attack, though. Kiba laughed, "Haha, you can't even attack, you weakling bitch." That was obviously the incorrect thing to say since the very next instant, Kiba, Akamaru, and his clone were all unexpectedly punched in the stomach and sent flying off. In an effort to catch his breath, Kiba coughed, and Akamaru did the same. The clone had already vanished after such a vicious assault. When Kiba looked up, he saw his rival calmly approaching them while looking down at them with disgust. This further infuriated Kiba. Kiba yelled, "Come on Akamaru, let's do this." Tensoga. While still utilizing Gatsuga, they leaped into the air. However, as they dug down, they merged with one another to create a massive drill that headed straight towards Sesshomaru. Sesshomaru just drew his blade, the Bakuseiga, the weapon that became evident when Sesshomaru finally completed his process of passage. Instead of attempting to avoid it, he first considered employing the explosive corrosion wave but ultimately chose to use a conventional strike that was filled with demons. Don't be too harsh on this helpless fool. He flung his blade right onto Kiba's strike, causing a big explosion. With cuts all over their bodies, Kiba and Akamaru were forced out of their attack. However, Kiba's dignity prevented him from giving up. "That's it. Let me prove to you why I'm the Inuzaku clan's alpha and you're just a dirty Omega mongrel," yelled Kiba. Returned to the stands. Kiba's remark made Inuyasha wince. "Uo, that dude is screwed." His spouses shared his opinion. Hana wanted to disagree, but she knew that Kiba would come to regret what she had said. Jaken and Rin were yelling in support of Sesshomaru. Kaguya could only grin in anticipation of what lay ahead. Kiba's outburst made Naruto and Hinata cringe as well because they knew he would soon be in excruciating pain. Returning to the execution site, I refer to Arena 3. Before they both rode upon Akamaru, Kiba created a second copy of himself. Henge Sentoro, Jinju Kongo. The three-headed wolf that was Kiba screamed, "Beat this." He instantly felt Sesshomaru's overpowering Kai coming at him before he could attack. He saw Sesshomaru's eyes turn blood red, and he was unable to move. His expression was becoming more ferocious as the wind grew around him like a terrible hurricane. He was suddenly enveloped in a pink aura that caused him to vanish. The pink light rose into the air and bounced around for a while before coming back to Earth. Instead of Sesshomaru in his typical form, a huge, vicious white dog demon stood in his place. easily towering over Kiba's shape. Kiba attempted to attack since he was not easily deterred. Gatenga Uiga. Kiba pivoted quickly in the direction of Sesshomaru, who deflected the blow with a careless swipe of his paw. After Kiba's attack was interrupted, it flew into a few trees before coming to an end. Sesshomaru jumped on him and put his paw on Kiba's neck before he could stand up. Sesshomaru uttered a low growl to make his point. Listen, you little mutt, if you were to compare yourself to the other dogs in the hierarchy, you wouldn't even be a beta. You're an omega, the lowest of them all, and you don't know your place. Maybe you'll figure it out in the hereafter. Tatsuko, the announcer for this fight, was unable to quickly declare the winner. Sesshomaru used his other paw to strike the Omega, intending to kill him. However, the proctor who had been with the announcer prevented him from continuing. The strike was stopped with one hand by Ryzen Paku's elder, Hayato Furinji. The elder declared, "That's enough. This conflict is ended. There's no need to kill." Sesshomaru grumbled but followed orders. Despite his disdain for most people, he had respect for the people of Ryzen Paku, especially the elder, who could easily outfight him when fully powered. Sesshomaru was declared the winner by Tatsuko, who had at last gathered her composure. Akamaru and Kiba took the place of Kiba's wolf form and his ordinary form. After their near-death experience, both were shivering and certain that their opponent was the Alpha and that, in comparison to him, they were only Omegas. Although it was embarrassing, they knew better than to challenge the hierarchy. Arena 4. Suigetsu sliced at Sora, who deflected it and then returned fire. Suigetsu typically wouldn't mind because the standard swords back at the east didn't harm his liquid form. Suigetsu changed his typical reckless approach as a result of Sora's Keyblade damaging that defense and bypassing his customary line of defense. Damn it, why do these Western fighters constantly have weapons that can easily avoid my water form? However, Suigetsu, he had no time to think any further as Sora threw his Keyblade, which was covered in fire, at him and forced him to avoid it. The Keyblade came flying back at Sora like a boomerang, but he managed to catch it and use his Keyblade to send it to the ground where Suigetsu was. Launch dive. Suigetsu jumped back as far as he could after going pale at the sight of the lightning that was about to strike him. He raised his finger and pointed it like a gun at Sora before launching a barrage of water arrows. Sora quickly blocked them and then retreated toward him. Suigetsu made the decision to change course. Jetsu Water Clone. Before they all charged at Sora, 12 water clones had formed. Before jabbing his Keyblade into one of them, Sora blocked a few. It adhered to his Keyblade instead of changing shape. Before they could react, Sora was flailing the water clone around, striking the other clones in the process, and causing them to all dissolve. Sora made the decision to pick up the pace a little. "Give me courage," Sora cried. Before his attire turned from black to crimson, he was suddenly surrounded by light. Valor form. Sora suddenly found himself holding 2 Keyblades and sprinted towards Suigetsu, slicing and cutting furiously. Suigetsu was completely unable to attack, and soon his entire body was covered with cuts and bruises. Suigetsu screamed, "All right, that's it," and leaped over to the area where the river was in the arena. Before absorbing all the water from the river and transforming into a huge mutant fish with tentacles, he rapidly gulped the water in his water bottle. Suigetsu slammed the tentacles towards the Sora and roared, "Take this." They left behind massive craters in the ground Sora was standing on, creating a sea of dust. Nobody was able to determine the outcome of Suigetsu's assault. They heard something break into bits a short while later. An explosion caused all of Suigetsu's tentacles to blow up. Wisdom form. Reflect. In a split second, Sora transformed from his Valor form into his Wisdom form. His attire also changed from red to blue, and he only had one Keyblade with him. But suddenly he was gliding on the earth, hovering over it. Suigetsu sought to utilize a different strategy and created even more smaller tentacles than previously. Undeterred by Sora's strike, he was going for quantity over quality in the hopes that at least one attack would succeed. Sora dodged a few before coming up with an absurd notion. One of them was suddenly leaped over, and he landed on it before beginning to slide along it towards Suigetsu's main body. This stunned Suigetsu, who attempted to fight it with his attacks but failed. Soon, Sora leaped and landed on top of Suigetsu's enormous fish, exactly above where his main body was. Then Sora smiled, which made Suigetsu tremble. Sora yelled freeze, and hurled 5 enormous shards of ice in the direction of Suigetsu. The ice instantly froze the water upon touch, locking Suigetsu inside. Suigetsu was knocked out of his form and rendered unconscious as Sora dove down onto the now frozen fish, and slammed his Keyblade down with all his power, cracking the ice. He was promptly crowned the victor by Raidam. Arena 5. Tenzo was not having fun. His opponent was simply burning through all of his attacks with indiscriminate fire despite the fact that he had Mokuton, one of the most feared bloodlines in the East. The time has come to avoid the flames. Fire Dragon's Roar, or Karyu no Haku. After taking a massive breath, Natsu released a powerful fireball that flew straight through Tenzo's earlier defense. Tenzo growled angrily, "I've heard of overwhelming firepower, but this is preposterous." The man takes it literally. Before cloning some wood, he intended to fool Natsu, approach him from behind, and put an end to it. Natsu was already approaching them with both of his hands on fire before they had a chance to disengage. When the flames are combined, the phrase with a flame on the right hand and a flame on the left hand is pronounced Karyu no Kon. As soon as Natsu joined his hands, a massive explosion occurred, centering Tenzo. His clones surrounded him in an effort to deflect the majority of the blow because he was unable to create a replacement in time. Tenzo was launched senseless into the air and into a neighboring river. Natsu became victorious. Deidara triumphs in Arena 6. The screen rapidly showed who will be fighting next on the west side of the chart when the east side's battles were finished. Arena 1. Goku vs Kakuzu. I wonder how much power I can extract out of it, and it'll be fun to take on his heart for my horde, thought Kakuzu. Orochimaru vs Anko in Arena 2. In preparation for taking revenge for all those years, Anko scowled at her former sensei. Orochimaru only grinned menacingly. Frankenstein vs Samui in Arena 3. Iwa Jounin receives a pass in Arena 4. Suna Jounin vs Suna Jounin in Arena 5. Sasuke vs Kodoheim in Arena 6. If Naruto hadn't requested Hisoka to silence Sakura, she would have utilized her banshee voice. He gummed her mouth shut and applied a silencing seal to her back. Orochimaru reminded Kodoheim, "Remember, I want you to persuade Sasuke to see Oto during the duel." Kodoheim replied, "Of course, Orochimaru-sama, anything for you." Arena 1. For Kakuzu, things were simply not going well. He believed he had seen every move Goku made, but it is obvious that Goku did not display all of his skills during his battle with the Kakuzu had first vowed to rip out Goku's heart for his own purposes. When he heard that, Goku had no mercy and immediately used Kaioken X2 to beat him senseless. Kakuzu suffered so much harm that he had to rely on his Earth Heart and Water Heart to survive. Goku demonstrated his ability to effortlessly punch through boulders, rendering his hardened skin ineffective. Goku abruptly filled the arena with light before Kakuzu could utilize his lightning mask to perform a jutsu. Before he realized his lightning mask was crumpled beneath Goku's foot, it seemed as though a sun had suddenly appeared in the arena and briefly rendered him partially blind. Kakuzu hurriedly drew the lightning mask back and exclaimed, "That is it. I'm tired of losing my hearts. I don't even care if I destroy your heart before I can use it. Just die." It had just enough left over to launch one final significant assault. Katen, Zukaku. His fire mask opened up and a massive burst of flame gushed forth. Futon, Atsugai. His wind mask opened up and blasted wind from its mouth, causing the fire to grow even bigger. Raiten, Giant. Kakuzu himself channeled lightning into the blast. Triple element jutsu, Chaos Impulse. Goku didn't even seem worried at this huge attack that was coming towards him. Instead, he planted his feet down, focusing his chakra before putting his hand together behind him. Energy could clearly be seen gathering in his hands. Ha-me. A huge blast of blue energy left Goku's hands as soon as he put them in front of him. Both attacks met each other in the middle of the arena, causing it to be a stalemate. "Give up now. It's useless to struggle. I'll kill you and get my hearts from your pathetic friends," yelled Kakuzu as he tried to channel more chakra into his attack. Then he heard something he wished it wasn't true. "Kaioken," yelled Goku. "Nuo," said Kakuzu in disbelief. "Times," continued Goku, as if Kakuzu hadn't said anything. "No, no, no," yelled Kakuzu, almost pleading Goku now. "4," shouted Goku, deciding to skip X3 and go straight for 4. "No, no, 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 no. Fuccc," yelled Kakuzu as his attack was pushed back even further and dispersed, leaving him to take the full brunt of Goku's attack. The attack carried him out of the arena and into the barrier that had been placed all around each arena. When Goku's attack finally dispersed, Kakuzu was barely alive with all his masks shattered and unconscious. Arena 2. Anko screamed in pain. She was clutching on the nape of her neck. The cursed seal that was on her neck was acting up, and she had no way to stop it from hurting. Orochimaru just grinned, relishing the fact that his latest victim was his first disciple. He opened his mouth, in which a snake appeared out that regurgitated his Kusanagi sword. The sword floated into the air bit before he took it by the hilt. Seeing that Anko couldn't continue anymore, Oobleck quickly announced that Orochimaru was the winner. Orochimaru either didn't hear him or ignored it as he charged towards Anko, intent on stabbing her. Suddenly Orochimaru saw Anko disappear in a blur and felt a kick to his chin. He shook his head and noticed that Oobleck had Anko in his arms while the proctor, Ma Kensei, had delivered the kick. "Enough, I won't forgive you if you hurt this beautiful lady," said Kensei. Orochimaru growled, but decided to obey. For now, he would just have to plan some way to grab revenge later on. Kensei tried to perform treatment on her, only to slightly grope her breasts before being chased by the Oobleck for improper conduct. Arena 3. Samui was breathing heavily. Her opponent seemed to be a normal butler, but she couldn't land an attack on him at all. It seemed like he knew what she was planning already, and could counter everything without even breaking a sweat. She still had no idea what his power was, as he stuck with the basics taijutsu. She remembered Yujito's warning about this opponent, but she couldn't imagine she would be this helpless. She decided to forfeit, thus letting Frankenstein go on to the next round. She didn't feel like fighting Orochimaru even if she did win. Arena 4. Iwa gets a pass, but gives up on account he freaks out he has to fight Itachi next round. Suna Jounin triumphs in Arena 5. Arena 6. Kotohime managed to ensnare Sasuke into her hair. Sasuke easily cut through it, but not before Kotohime whispered into his ears, "Come to Oto, and all your dreams will come true. Whether it would be power, women, or riches, Orochimaru will personally welcome you. Only the strong woman shall become your wives to sire your children and bring back the Uchiha to glory." Sasuke savagely kicked her away, but before he could follow up on the attack, Kotohime announced her intention to surrender. As they were whisked back to the Colosseum, Sasuke took time to actually contemplate his decision to defect. And with Kotohime's word, his decision to defect was growing stronger. Everyone hurried back to their chosen refuge after Eric proclaimed that the fights would begin tomorrow. Shikamaru was trying to plan out how to fight against Yusuke. Baki was terrified of fighting against Goku. And Orochimaru was planning on how to put his seal on a Western competitor to influence him to defect to him. Many of them asked what Hana had learned, seeing as she had actually sat in the audience with some of the Westerners. But she told them there wasn't much to learn. The Raikage was contemplating on how the Emperor when B started to rap again. He had to put those thoughts on hold to do a drop kick on B to stop making a fool of himself. After subjecting B to a few brotherly punches, he found himself alone with his village members. Samui quickly took this time to approach A. "Yujiro Nisama gave me a letter and told me it was for you specifically. She mentioned something about putting a good word for us, and that the Emperor of the Imperial West would be willing to meet with us tonight. She specified only you, B, and me could come," whispered Samui. I didn't need long to think about it and immediately accepted when he read the letter. Later that night, when everyone was asleep, A, B, and Samui snuck to the meeting point, where they were blindfolded and lead teleported to the palace by Goku. They were quite shocked to see that the Emperor was Naruto, but quickly got down to business. They soon agreed on a non-aggression pact with some trade agreement. It was not as lenient as Kiri's or Suna, but it was expected since Neji still had a slight grudge on Kumo for what happened to his father. Meanwhile, Utakata was talking to Naruto and 3 other people, as Yujito was still with Samui. "Are you sure you want to come out like this, Naruto-sama? We don't necessarily need you for this part of the tournament." The others agreed. "Thanks for the worry, guys, but I still plan to do this." "Don't worry, those that don't know won't suspect a thing. That's what shadow clones are for," replied Naruto as the night crept in. The next day rolled out faster than the Easterners expected. As they got to their seats, Temari and Hana were actually invited to sit with Kagura in her box again. Sasuke was debating accepting Orochimaru's invitation as everyone took their seats. All he now required was a route there. An announcement came before he had a chance to consider this further. "All right, everyone, I hope you're as thrilled as I am," yelled Eric. "Today is the final day of this competition, and since just one fight will take place, everyone can focus on it. Even the Emperor and his consort are pleased. All the fights will be held in the Colosseum once more." The Emperor and his consort were already seated when the Easterners turned around to look at them. Those who already knew who he was just grinned, knowing that his identity would soon be shockingly revealed. "Indeed," Port exclaimed. "Now, just in case the seals aren't enough, we do have a backup plan. Allow us to introduce the 6 people who will supply chakra for the barrier jutsu. Please welcome our Jinchuriki Corps. Now, just in case the seals aren't enough, we do have a backup plan. Just in case the seals aren't enough, We do have a backup plan, just in case the barriers aren't enough. The competitors may go use everything they have without. Just as they were about to leave the building, they requested the 7th member of their group, who had not planned to participate, to join them. Are you certain? Questioned Roshi. Everyone else had a similar worry. I want to let Akatsuki know they can no longer control me, the 7th member stated. Yes, I have been hidden for too long. I may not have purposefully led my town to such a horrible time, but it was still my fault that I was under a genjutsu. He was carrying a weapon that was much taller than him, and he had sutures under his left eye. 6 persons emerged, all of whom were clad in the same white shinobi uniform. They knew of Utakata and Ujido, but the other astonished them all, especially Iwa. That's Hand of Steam, isn't it? Roshi is still around. Taki apparently mentioned Fu passed away. That Agora of Kiri, isn't it? I believed he perished during the mist uprising. Then, a 7th man came out, wearing the same outfit as the others. His sun-kissed golden hair was plain to see, and Konoha gasped as he realized it was Minato. The man was a close clone, or so they believed, but closer inspection revealed that the eye shape didn't belong to him, and the whisker traces revealed who he individual really was. Is that Naruto? Is that? Yelled Aruka. The demon of Konoha was actually residing in the West, still alive and part of the Imperial West. And every Easterner who didn't know Naruto was still alive grew wide at this revelation. Amura already started to make plans on somehow bringing Naruto back on fabricated charges. He was so sure that the Emperor wouldn't want Naruto once he found out who he was, and failed to realize that even demons were allowed to live peacefully in. All 7 of the Jinchuriki Corps performed the same hand signs, making sure Sasuke could not see it before slamming their hands down. A huge barrier formed around the arena, completely protecting the audience from any stray attacks. It soon cleared up, leaving it to be a see-through barrier, but its defense was strong enough to take a continuous burst of Biju blasts, and not leave. Naruto didn't even seem to acknowledge them as he took his place farth. Beginning on the east side. Match 1. Shikamaru was already trying to blaze through various scenarios and strategies when Yusuke and Shikamaru's fight began. As they stepped into the arena, it had been transformed into a forest, with trees between them. He didn't expect Yusuke to have such a direct approach, who just dove through the forest in a straight line, aiming for him. Shikamaru tried to adjust to the situation, thinking, damn it, I hate opponents who seem to just throw away basic tactics and abandon all forms of strategies. However, Yusuke was a battle savant and dodged through all of Shikamaru's tricks. He shot a Raigun at Shikamaru, who cursed and was forced to dodge, but Yusuke was already next to him and punched him in the stomach. Shikamaru groaned as he swiftly made the gesture have the shadows begin creeping up Yusuke's body. Thinking it was a marvel, he was still conscious after that punch. The end. Shikamaru, who was troubled by Yusuke's smile, questioned. Yusuke grinned, look below and see who should give up. There was no way for Shikamaru to avoid that shot, and his attacks could not kill Yusuke quickly enough. Then, he had a thought. Did Yusuke plan so far in advance that he purposely let himself be captured by the jutsu just to have his other hand prepared? Shikamaru looked down to see his opponent's left hand already in the shape of a gun, with chakra already gathered on the index finger ready to fire. I renounce. This game is very difficult. As the fight came to a close, Yusuke hooked his arm across Shikamaru and grinned madly. According to Shikamaru, nice battle, you're lucky that I've faced so many strategists already. But you seem to be quite intelligent. If you ever have time, come on over to my apartment. Perhaps you could play shogi with the old hag to keep her company, Yusuke said. Genkai sneezed in another location within her home. Match 2. To the majority of Kumo's surprise, B was engaged in combat with Sesshomaru and wasn't winning. His sword style had been rendered ineffective, and he was already using the power of his tailed beast. But even with Juki's, or the Hachibi's, power, he could not gain the upper hand. Sesshomaru's sword just kept cutting him, and when he used the Biju ball and fired, Sesshomaru countered. Corrosive explosive wave. Juki warned B not to make any abrupt moves or else he would die. Nonetheless, the assault collided with the ball and exploded. Before B could react in his demon form, he discovered Sesshomaru with his blade pointed precisely between his eyes. Seeing no other option, B surrendered the contest. Third match, Sora defeats Iwa. Match 4. I'm good. I'm so energized, Natsu shouted as he jumped up onto the stage. HMPH, I'll demonstrate to you how explosive art is, Deidara said. Deidara was a little surprised to see something blow but didn't think much about it, except that his opponent also liked to blow things up. He quickly created some explosive birds and sent them flying towards Natsu, who dodged them. The match continued for a while before Deidara was finally able to have some of his explosive spiders land on Natsu's shoulder. Haha, it's done. C3 explosion. Eat it. Natsu tried to remove the spiders off his body and throw them in front of him. But it was too late, yelled Deidara as he set off the bombs. Natsu was directly in the middle of a massive explosion when it occurred. Call it a ref, he has died. Deidara smirked as he turned away. But then he heard a slurping sound and turned to see the explosion was being eaten. He watched in shock as the explosion shrank and shrank until he could see his opponent actually eating the explosion. And soon, Natsu was done eating all the fire that had come from the explosion. I appreciate the cuisine, Natsu said. Who in the world are you? Deidara shouted. Feeling that he couldn't risk it any longer, he decided to unleash the jutsu he had been saving up for Itachi. He quickly molded his C4 while dodging Natsu's fire fists, but couldn't risk using the big version because he was in a limited zone and couldn't get out. So he took one of Natsu's punch while applying clay to his body. Hahaha, you're no longer alive. My strongest C4 explosion yet is inside that sphere. Deidara activated it, not expecting his clay sphere to abruptly explode. C4 explosions should cause micro-explosions inside my opponent's body to disintegrate his entire body, Deidara reasoned. Instead, he discovered Natsu, who was unharmed, but entirely engulfed in flames. Deidara was certain he heard a dragon roaring behind Natsu as he charged, but he soon realized that due to the fire surrounding Natsu, it was impossible for him to even get near to him because his C4 would be burned as soon as it made touch with the flames. Just who are you? Surprised that nothing was working, asked Deidara. I defeat dragons. Ingest it, yelled Natsu. Kajizume, Yokugeki, Kenkaku, and Karyu no Tekken. Natsu made the decision to end this bout since Deidara was in so much pain that he was unable to determine how many times he had been attacked. Guren Bakuinjin, Metsu no Aogi. Deidara would have loved to watch this attack because it involved explosives, but he was in no condition to do so after being struck by it and knocked unconscious as he was sent flying off the arena and into the barrier. Natsu raised his arm as he was pronounced the winner. North side. Match 1. Baki automatically lost because he had no interest in seeing how many hits from Goku he could take or how far he could push Kaioken. Match 2. A simple pretty boy butler shouldn't stand a chance against him, Orochimaru thought as he looked at his opponent. If you want to survive, why don't you forfeit the game? Or even better, let me test my hypothesis on you. Your physique will undoubtedly be a very useful asset, since I am the world expert in human modification, sneered at Orochimaru. Orochimaru had spoken the wrong thing. At that threat, every Westerner shuddered. Orochimaru heard a chuckle coming from Frankenstein. Then it got louder and louder, until it was just maniacal laughter. You play around with me. That's absurd. I've heard all about your experiments. Frankenstein chuckled. How many tries you've made at life and how much you sought immortality. From one researcher to another. I'm not even allowed to call you a scientist. Just a novice who has no idea what he's doing. You're very rude. I've changed my mind. I'll murder you, yelled Orochimaru, feeling thoroughly belittled by this man. A few moments later, that body was impaled by several pointed purple poles that appeared out of nowhere as Orochimaru's neck expanded and attempted to bite the man. As soon as his mouth got close, the man felt danger in his very being and employed this particular mud clone replacement. They don't feel right, those powers, Orochimaru mused. He didn't have much time to think as his adversary appeared additional spears and hurled them in his direction. After dodging them, Orochimaru had to quickly jump to escape being struck. Exactly where? Frankenstein was already above him and firing more spears as Orochimaru looked up. He employed a fire jutsu to block it since he could think of no other option before using a wind jutsu to amp up his firepower. 2 spears, though, got through and stabbed him. He hurriedly took them out after landing, grunting in pain, in the hopes that his white snake strength would repair the harm. He then discovered that those spears had somehow rendered his healing abilities entirely useless. Although this poison was completely unfamiliar to him, it gave off the impression that it was poison. In front of Orochimaru, Frankenstein abruptly remarked, "Repeat what you said earlier. You are the global expert in altering human behavior, so why would you want to use me as a test subject?" Orochimaru roared, leaping back a good distance. "You'll pay for that." He removed the seals on some scrolls. He saw 2 almost dead bodies there. Orochimaru swiftly smashed his palms into the ground after breaking a few seals. Ito Tensei Kuchios. Coffins suddenly engulfed the 2 bodies. 2 bodies that appeared to be decomposing emerged as the casket doors slowly opened. I yelled, "Orochimaru, how dare you?" as the rest of Kumo likewise erupted in anger. Gaara yelled with the rest of his people, That bastard. As he revived the third Raikage and third Kazekage, and Minoru, Orochimaru had essentially spit on their faces. I would have wanted to summon the Shadame Hokage, but he's sealed up. I won't even have to move, mocked Orochimaru as he swiftly inserted Fudo seals into their heads. Fukuku. These cages were formidable fighters in their own time, he said. The cage's body soon took on its natural hue and appearance. Their dark eyes were the only distinction. Now, they were completely ruled by Orochimaru. Frankenstein cocked an eyebrow and remarked, "Summoning cannon fodder now. Still, to use lives of people without remorse, to bring them back from their eternal sleep, is despicable. Allow me to show you my weapon. Answer my call, Dark Spear." The Easterners were confused when the Jinchuriki easily pierced a hole in the top of the barrier. Suddenly, a dark lightning strike struck Frankenstein's hand as it dropped from the heavens. Frankenstein was holding a huge, two-sided, dark purple spear when it suddenly took shape. But the aura it gave off made his rivals shudder. It had an aura that seemed to scream that it wanted to eat souls and felt very dark and active. Orochimaru thought, "And fascinating weapon. I'll have to study it when I remove it from your dead body." Suddenly attacking Frankenstein were 3A and Minoru. However, despite their strength and quickness, Frankenstein still appeared to be in charge of the situation. He demonstrated this by striking 3A with a cutting ranged attack. He avoided it, but Orochimaru was close behind him, requiring him to avoid it as well. Frankenstein asked mockingly, "What's wrong? I thought you said you didn't need to move." Along with his summoning, Orochimaru snarled and assaulted the man. Suddenly, Frankenstein actually flung his sword right at him, stabbing Minoru in the stomach. As Minoru attempted to draw the weapon, Orochimaru firmly retorted, "It's worthless. My summons are truly immortal and can't die by physical means." His self-assurance was dented as he observed Minoru unable to remove the weapon. Instead, the weapon began to grab onto his hands and spread corruption throughout his entire body. The remainder of the Easterners, including Orochimaru, gasped as they watched the weapon slowly eat Minoru. The Fuda seal was broken by the corruption, allowing Minoru to reclaim his free will. Before the weapon abruptly blurred everything around him and created a dark whirlwind, he gave Frankenstein one final glance and grinned as if to say thank you. Only the spear in the dirt was all that remained. As he ordered 3A to assault Frankenstein, Orochimaru yelled angrily, "What did you do to my summon?" Before deflecting 3A's attack, Frankenstein raised his hand and called his weapon back to him. Frankenstein curtly remarked, "My weapon liked him," without any further explanation. After deflecting 3A's assault, he launched another one that left a sizable gash in his body. The wound was contaminated by Frankenstein's magic, which made it heal much more slowly than usual. With just two adversaries to contend with, Frankenstein quickly consumed 3A with his spear. By this time, Orochimaru was genuinely scared of him. He was no longer able to summon them because his summons had somehow been eaten along with their souls. He lacked another nearly dead body to employ, and all of his jutsu were ineffective against this opponent. He considered utilizing Manda but ultimately concluded it wasn't worthwhile. As the spear was ready to stab Orochimaru between the eyes, he hastily conceded. Match 3. Itachi receives a free pass because his opponent withdrew prior to the bout. Match 4. Actually, the Sunanin were working against Sasuke's chances of triumph. Sasuke's fury increased until it finally burst. Sasuke cried out as his eyes changed into the Mangekyo Sharingan, a kaleidoscopic variation. "I will not let some low-life peasant stop me from exacting my retribution." Itachi murmured, "So, he too has obtained it. But the price he paid for it." He basically made up a story about how he got his to his brother. In actuality, he was so devastated by witnessing Shisui commit suicide that he developed his talent. However, he continued to hold himself accountable for his inaction. When they first saw the Mangekyo Sharingan, Naruto and Hinata both scowled. Their spies at the Pikara merchant house provided information on Sasuke's acquisition of it, including when and how he allegedly adopted a follower and treated him as a brother. The two became nearly inseparable as they grew closer. Sasuke gave him a Chidori through the heart when the disciple turned Chunin, while the disciple is said to have given him his Mangekyo Sharingan. For committing such a crime, the Shinobi Council planned to punish and even put him to death. He was only fined and given a smack on the wrist after the elders and the civilian council intervened. But this still didn't explain how he got it to them. Itachi explained to them that he only acquired eyes as a result of a horrific event. It shouldn't have been terrible enough to activate it since Sasuke didn't hesitate in the least to kill his own disciple. Sasuke activated Susanoo, the purple skeletal level 1, and launched a barrage of attacks. The Sunanin forfeited since he had no choice because he realized he had no chance. But before the referee could make a decision, Sasuke struck. Amaterasu, die. Unexpectedly, the Sunanin caught fire. It refused to burn off even when he rolled to try to smother it. Sasuke mocked him, saying, "You were a fool to oppose me. Die. Knowing you are consumed by flames that will burn you for 7 days and nights and are impossible to put out." Next to the burning man, Natsu and Sora arrived out of nowhere. Sasuke laughed, believing there was nothing they could do. Natsu only lightly touched the flame, yet he wasn't burned. Natsu then began to breathe in, consuming all of the fire that was on the burning man. As soon as the fire was extinguished, Sora used Cure to instantly heal the man and then brought him to the medical tent. This infuriated Sasuke. He was unable to execute his brand of fair justice because of these idiots. Natsu roared to the skies and blew the extra fires into the sky before he had a chance to react. He finished and patted his belly. Natsu said, "Phew, those are some good flames. Flames that burn for a long time." As Sasuke moved closer to Natsu, members of Ryuzenpaku suddenly surrounded him. Sakaki yelled, "Try it. Give me an excuse to toss you out of here." Furinji Hayata warned, "Take one more step, and you'll find yourself in a world of pain." Before leaving the arena, Sasuke muttered a few expletives. He smiled at Naruto as he passed by. Sasuke mocked, "How does it feel to see me still above you? Dope." Team was actually standing above a pile of shit when Naruto only grinned back. Team. The only thing you're standing above right now is a pile of shit. Sasuke noticed that his foot was in fact on top of a mess of poop when he looked down. As everyone laughed at him, he grew angrier and huffed as he walked away with as much dignity as he could. The audience was granted an hour pause to take care of any business. Despite Sasuke's reluctance, all warriors were restored to full health. The matches were soon back up. Yusuke vs Sesshomaru, Match 1. With a well-placed Ryukuden to Sesshomaru's gut, Yusuke just about prevails. Second game, Sora vs Natsu. Natsu and Sora engage in combat utilizing their best techniques. Finally, Double Ko. Match 3, Frankenstein vs Goku. Even while Goku may not be intelligent, his fighting instincts are actually quite dangerous. As a result, Frankenstein's intentions are interrupted several times. Kaiken multiplied by 10 gives Goku the victory. Fourth match, Itachi vs Sasuke. Sasuke glared venomously at Itachi. The time has come for him to exact his clan's just retribution. The time has come when he would be free of his shadow. This was the day Itachi would pass away in public. This is where begin. Sasuke was startled out of his violent thoughts as he saw a sickle kick coming straight at him. He just managed to avoid it before getting a back kick to the gut. After being kicked backward, he rebounded by performing a backflip before slipping to the ground. 5 kunais were flying in his direction as he looked up, sharing an active. He blocked them with his kunai, but as he was about to swipe his right hand to stop the last one, a foot fell on his right arm. When he turned to face the approaching axe kick of Itachi, he grew pale. Even though he had to block with his left arm, the force of the blow nevertheless rattled his body. He leaped back and turned to gaze at Itachi, who had just vanished among a flock of crows. "You remain frail, I say." Itachi was pointing his kunai at his back and had his Sharingan activated as Sasuke turned to look behind him. Itachi remarked, "I don't know how I ever thought you would be the one to save the Uchiha name." Sasuke gave the hand signs for his preferred fire jutsu as he jumped away from him after becoming alarmed. Itachi easily avoided a massive fireball that was aimed at him. A Fuma Shuriken sped toward him. When Itachi dove, he noticed that another one was hiding in its shadow. He jumped into the tiny space between them. Upon observing this, Sasuke grinned and pulled the cords he had fastened to the shurikens. 2 of the blades split off and were directly aimed at him. Itachi would not have been able to avoid it if he was still sick with guilt and had worn-out eyes from being mistreated as a disability. He did, however, discover the best medical professionals and therapists in the West, who helped him heal and grow even more resilient than he had anticipated. He had to if he wanted to aid Naruto in taking over the West. Therefore, he dodged the swords by hurling 2 kunais in their direction. After recovering his position, he quickly moved in the direction of Sasuke. Sasuke continued to hurl shurikens in an attempt to stop Itachi, but Itachi quickly deflected them with his own shurikens before allowing some to pass. They missed by curving, causing it to go behind him. Sasuke pushed ahead while blazing through hand signals. Chidori. With that, Sasuke charged, determined to take Itachi's life. He was oblivious to the fact that some of Itachi's shurikens were actually doubled up and tossed together due to his extreme tunnel vision. As the shurikens bounced off one another at that precise moment, Three of them were heading directly for Sasuke's back. Itachi grabbed the wrist of the Chidori and deflected the Chidori with wind chakra, dispelling the lightning chakra. Sasuke struggled and attempted to subdue his sibling as he gazed at Itachi with venom. He observed Itachi had already created the Mangekyo Sharingan when he looked him in the eye. Tsukuyomi. Sasuke unexpectedly found himself in a lifeless universe. He turned to gaze around and saw that this was Itachi's Genjutsu. Itachi materialized in front of him before he could escape from it. "Little brother, keep your composure. I need to speak with you first." Before being restrained to a cross, Sasuke growled and attempted to assault the man. Itachi took advantage of the opportunity to reveal the truth regarding Konoha and the Uchiha clan. Itachi told Sasuke everything, including his commitment to his parents. As he fell silent, Itachi gave Sasuke a choice when he finished his explanation: accept his invitation to join him and find serenity, or decline it. At first, Sasuke's contemplative demeanor gave Itachi the impression that he had persuaded his younger brother. That changed, though, when he noticed that Sasuke's eye was still burning with wrath and spat at him. "You're no Uchiha. You should pull those eyes out if you were clever. The Sharingan is the ultimate bloodline. The Uchiha clan had every right to overthrow those weaklings and demonstrate to the world who was the strongest. He has truly fallen far. Even employing Shusui's eye is no longer worthwhile." Itachi thought. "Goodbye, my brother," as Sasuke finally used his Mangekyo Sharingan to defeat Tsukuyomi. Only a few seconds had elapsed before they returned to the real world. Itachi would ordinarily have been exhausted after using Tsukuyomi just once, but because to his training and the knowledge he gained from Frankenstein about how to experiment with his bloodline, he was able to use it numerous times without breaking a sweat. "I'll kill you," Sasuke yelled. He grumbled as he felt three shurikens strike his back. This was Itachi's opportunity to kick him out of the way. Sasuke's Susanoo appeared out of nowhere. It was a humanoid one this time. "Die, like the traitor you are," Sasuke said. "See, my hatred for you has allowed me to improve my armor once more." In an effort to hit Itachi just once, he shot arrows at him using his form. Some even had black flames surrounding them. Itachi easily avoided them all while remaining composed. "I'll take all the strong women and have the Uchiha clan reborn. It's a shame that Hyuga bitch ran away. She would have made a fine bitch, considering she was well developed even when she was young. I also need to exact revenge on the shitty ramen cook. Her daughter would have made a nice sex toy for practice," yelled Sasuke, insanity obvious in his eyes. Hayashi, Naruto, and Neji, who was hiding someplace in the stadium, all tightened their fists at hearing Sasuke speak about Hinata. Even though Naruto believed Itachi belonged in this fight, he desperately wanted to charge in and beat the team to the ground. However, what might occur later is a different matter. Itachi questioned, "Do you mean I am Tuchai's daughter? She looked nice, but once I'm done with her, she'll look like a pig and be a whore. And she won't be blessed with any Uchiha children. Ha ha ha. You RG," said Sasuke with a grin. Sasuke suddenly felt a punch enter his gut and pass through his Susanoo. When he looked down, Itachi appeared to teleport in front of him and delivered a devastating blow with just his fist and the crimson chakra that was encircling it. It caused Sasuke to become doubled over, and when Itachi drew back, Sasuke vomited the food he had just consumed. He snapped an angry glance up at Itachi before recoiling in terror. Itachi's normally grim expression was no longer on his face. Only that face and what appeared to be his cheerful expression were visible to Sasuke. Now, wrath could be seen all over Itachi's face, and it was fully directed at him. "You're talking about my future wife," Itachi said coldly. Naruto and his crew welcomed Iame and Tuchai when they first arrived in the West. Everyone was surprised when Iame slapped Itachi as a first response before shocking them all with an embrace and kiss. But this wasn't their first encounter. They used to play together when they were little. Even after Itachi turned 7 and became a genin, they continued to communicate. Iame would become envious whenever Izumi flirted with Itachi, but Itachi continued telling her that it was only one-sided. Because of Itachi's employment, they spent extended periods of time apart as time passed. Nevertheless, they continued to get together whenever they could. From there, their feelings for one another began to grow. Iame was unable to accept that Itachi would have slain his clan without a justification. Later, she discovered a message for her concealed in a location known only to her and Itachi. He promised in the letter that if she would be prepared to wait for him, he would return someday to explain and ask for forgiveness. While her father was concerned that she wouldn't be able to find someone, Iame stuck to that commitment even after all those years, refusing even to go on dates. Tuchai was taken aback by Itachi and Iame's secret, but he decided to put his trust in Itachi as the only Uchiha. Let it be known that this was one of the few times Itachi's expression displayed terror and dread. Despite this, he nevertheless took Itachi aside before giving him the talk. Itachi's chakra soared before Sasuke could even respond. His red Susanoo formed a completely complete body, easily surpassing Sasuke's. Sasuke has started to lash out once more. He believed he could finally defeat his brother, only to discover that their disparity was much wider. Itachi's Susanoo held up its right hand as if to mock him. A Rasengan eventually emerged when a recognizable swirl began to collect. Sasuke gaped. That's the Dobe's technique. Itachi only grinned. Itachi taught him nearly everything else while Naruto taught him the Rasengan throughout his time with Naruto, who even treated him like another little brother. Itachi really pleased Yusuke when they first met, and he informed him that even though he belonged to the inferior group, he might succeed in the West. Itachi accepted the comment gratefully even though he wasn't sure if it was a praise or an insult. Itachi said, "Part of it. Let me show you something I made." He added Amaterasu to his Rasengan while directing his attention there. The spiraling ball soon acquired all the characteristics of fire while keeping its shape. I'm not putting this in Japanese since I'm not sure how it would function. But Katen, illuminating spiral ball. Sasuke hurriedly retreated while injecting Susanoo with as much chakra as can. Bits of armor could be seen on his second-level humanoid Susanoo, but not enough to classify it as the third form. Itachi threw Sasuke his jutsu. It was completely cut through. Fortunately, Itachi made the decision to throw it a little bit higher to avoid hitting Sasuke's actual body. Sasuke was nearly unconscious when the consequences of destroying his Susanoo caused him to collapse. The winner was announced to be Itachi Uchiha. Itachi, though, put up his hand to correct the referee. I will now go by the name Shinka. It's no longer Uchiha. My brother is right. I no longer wish to be seen as one. Eric, the match's referee, announced, "Very well, Itachi Shinka wins." Most Easterners could only experience dejection. None of them had advanced to the semifinals in any way. Only the luck of the draw allowed Sasuke to get past the quarterfinals, and no one truly loved him. They didn't care who won because it would be a Westerner. As the competition came to an end, Yusuke emerged victorious. Mifune asked Han, who was the closest to them, to deliver a message to the Emperor as they all returned to their individual homes. Han was startled that a person from the East would actually address him with such courtesy, but he explained it as being in keeping with the samurai code. Mifune was still keen to exchange cultural information with Tetsu by inviting some of the swordsmen over in the future. Han bowed and requested that the Emperor receive the message. Sasuke decided Konoha had surpassed its purpose as they made their way back. He was moving to Oto and would return there one day to exact his retribution. Plan your route there now. Hana was coerced to divulge information by her village, but she remained silent. She wished to preserve her chance of bearing Sesshomaru's children. Soon Sekiro was pleading with the Emperor for a meeting, saying that the Emperor should be humbled and honored that Konoha wanted to see him. She yelled about Naruto as well, up until one of the Brotherhood members put a silencing seal on her and knocked her out, saying she was raising a commotion. He wasn't actually held accountable for that. They began to pack everything as soon as they got back to their homes. They would depart the following day and start fighting once more. But Tsunade wasn't about to give up so simply. She approached a Brotherhood member and demanded the Emperor's presence as well as a private meeting with Naruto. The man replied with a nod and then vanished into the shadows. Tsutomu was indignant. When he sold the demons to Akatsuki, he believed that he also got rid of Kuretsuchi and those two demons. They posed a danger to his authority. Now that he knew they had survived, the fact that they were residing in the West was much worse. That is, not anymore. Tsutomu would issue demands, threatening to start a war unless they returned. He didn't realize how much trouble that would get him into. What was doing something with his yelling and shouting brother B, who claimed he wanted to hang out with the Jinchuriki Corps. Only after several minutes of rapping, whining, vowing to return, promising to bring him back, and after Yujiro made the same promise, did grant him permission, but it didn't stop him from putting B in a headlock. Furious, Orochimaru was. The Brotherhood men seized Karin and vanished as soon as they returned. They explained that she was in Uzumaki and belonged where her clan was when asked why. Karin was the person Orochimaru would lose for allowing Zetsu to trespass. They also warned him. It was too late for Orochimaru to give that girl a cursed seal or some kind of spying apparatus. Orochimaru pondered the best way to inform Pain of this. Zetsu was dead. All the fighters were defeated, but Itachi and possibly Kasame were still alive. Since they still had one more day before they had to take an airship back, Everyone went to sleep. Morning arrived quickly, and Tetsu had already negotiated a deal with the emperor. Mifune is dismissed, and then the Iwa congregation comes. Han, Roshi, and Kuretsuchi, according to Tsutomu, betrayed Iwa and should be handed back to them immediately or else war would be declared. They intended to have Kuretsuchi executed, hold a fixed trial, and hand over Han and Roshi to Akatsuki. They were immediately dismissed for making such an absurd request. Because Iwa erred and they were allies, Oda was not allowed a hearing. Konoha was soon to meet with the emperor for the first time. Tsunade was anxious because she wanted to meet some of them again, including Naruto. Asuma only wanted to make sure his nephew was still alive while Hayashi badly wanted to see his kids. The group's darker members, including Hamura, Sasuke, and Sakura, planned ways to exact revenge or kill Naruto, Itachi, or carry out any other terrible scheme. Welcoming the Konoha party, led by Hokage Senju Tsunade, they soon had access to all of the imperial palace's splendor and riches as the grand doors to the palace opened. They were led into the throne room, where the emperor was sitting on his throne with his consort by his side, his face and head still covered. The emperor was surrounded by several other large figures. 6 of them were wearing masks and were positioned close to the exits. 4 additional characters served as the emperor's counselors. They were Ozpin, head of civilian affairs, Ezio Auditor, Grand Master of the Brotherhood, Yusuke Ramshi, Grand General of the Emperor's Army, and Ukai. Alchemy United's Roy Mustang would have arrived, but he was occupied caring for his wife Riza, who was on the verge of giving birth. It's showtime, Naruto thought, clenching his hands. When Hinata noticed his anxiety, she took his hands in hers and carefully helped him relax.